the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of fun. It's a terrible topic, the whole COVID bit. But remember, in the very hard days of COVID, remember who told you the truth. Now, I'm referring to the CIA whistleblower, James Erdman II, who provided testimony on COVID, the COVID cover-up, and said that it was intentional when he provided testimony before the Senate here middle of May 2026. And remember who told you exactly what was going on. And here's a CIA whistleblower coming forward and saying that COVID was a massive cover-up, that it came out of Wuhan, and that China was involved, our intelligence agencies were involved, Dr. Fauci was involved, gain of function. It was let's listen to him. Let's listen to some of his testimony. Here he is.
Whistleblowers are almost never protected. Whistleblower protections always...
Let's start over here.
On the origins of the COVID pandemic. Let's listen in right now.
For an emergency use authorization, mRNA products, being mandated by the former administration.
The Biden administration.
Dr. Fauci's role in the cover-up was intentional. Dr. Fauci influenced the analytical process.
This is a CIA whistleblower.
By leveraging
I think it's the biggest story in the world.
The IC consulted with a conflicted list of curated subject matter experts, public health officials, and scientists. This included some of the authors of the paper, The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, and other public health experts who have been in his orbit for the last 20 plus years.
His orbit being Dr. Fauci.
Some of the scientists were part of the Biological Sciences Experts Group, or the BSEG, an office of Director National Intelligence Advisory Body, whose members often receive considerable funding from NIAID and public health agencies.
It's commercial. Here he is again.
The BSEG scientists influenced national laboratory, WMD research, policy decisions, finished analysis, and other intelligence matters, creating misaligned incentives and conflicts of interest, as well as counterintelligence issues. Since 2006, the BSEG consulted part-time on biodefense issues for the IC, while conducting government-funded research and holding academia positions, as well as maintaining roles in public health institutions and serving as members in the National Academy of Science. They receive funding from NIAID and other agencies for vaccine research, USAID's PREDICT project, the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program, and even worked with Chinese scientists on coronavirus and other pathogen studies pursuing vaccines. There was no oversight monitoring how this web of relationships influenced research, policy, and public health in any holistic way for over 20 years. In fact, several of the BSEG scientists helped Dr. Fauci rewrite definitions of gain of function in 2015 to lift a funding pause on dangerous research. Still others participated in planning Event 201 in 2019. This was a coronavirus pandemic tabletop exercise, curiously similar to the events that played out during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Remember I told everybody all about that in 2019 and 2020. Now here it is 6 years later and this is coming out.
CIA and DNI analytic managers responsible for examining the origin of COVID made decisions inconsistent with the conclusions of subject matter experts and analytical tradecraft, consistently favoring the theory of zoonosis or natural origin.
When they knew it wasn't.
Following the CIA's COVID relook that culminated in 2023,
it was not natural.
The
was
CIA
made.
retaliated against analysts supporting the lab leak hypothesis. CIA analysts were not bribed. The analysts that supported the 2023 lab leak conclusion took every administrative measure available to them to address their deep concerns regarding the analytic integrity of their finished intelligence. CIA managers retaliated against them for their refusal to agree with management's middle-of-the-night anonymous rewrite of the analysis.
This is a CIA
which changed the
whistleblower.
assessment to a non-call judgment.
Took a lot of guts to do this.
Dr. Anthony Fauci's influence over the IC's COVID origin analysis and the witting and unwitting role some BSEG scientists and IC personnel played in the cover-up exposed why this issue is of deep concern. Failure to address the United States government's inability to differentiate between public health and biodefense and the oversight-resistant ecosystem of life science actors has been fertile ground for increasingly dangerous continental United States gain-of-function research, as well as similar research conducted in U.S. government-supported labs abroad. Post-9/11 changes in public health and biodefense roles and responsibilities have blurred the lines between scientists, the military, the intelligence community. It has resulted in a deliberately opaque and excessively redundant biodefense research policy and financial infrastructure.
All right, let's end it there. There's a lot more that goes on, but it essentially says Dr. Fauci is part of a massive scheme. The CIA played a role in it. Intelligence agencies got wrapped up in it. They all knew that it wasn't just a natural lab leak out of China. They knew the story from the outset, and they allowed Dr. Fauci and in Ohio, Amy Acton, to behave in ways that shut down the economy, killed people, harmed people in many ways, and forced government-mandated vaccines that were dangerous and aligned themselves with biotech companies like Pfizer, where they got it was essentially an insurance scheme like you see with most insurance, where a consumer was forced to buy something they didn't want, and this way they got government subsidy for their forcing people to take the product that was mandated by government unconstitutionally. And all those mandates fell away when challenged in the Supreme Court, as they should have. But here's a whistleblower coming out and saying everything that I said. That did it get me a lot of trouble? Yeah, it got me a lot of trouble. But would I do it again? You bet I would. And I will over and over and over again. But in 2020, when I was saying it, no one was saying it. No one was saying it on the news. And very few people really covered this story as it broke here in the middle of May 2026. 6 years after the fact. And here's a whistleblower saying the CIA played a role in a cover-up of what Dr. Fauci knew to be deliberate lies that harmed a lot of people. And health policy was damaged permanently as a result. People like Amy Acton in Ohio were certainly extensions of Dr. Fauci and the CDC, which never regained any level of trust in the public. And it's because of things like this. People know better. And here you have a CIA agent who came out and said, look, this is what we know and this is what happened. And yeah, CIA was in on it. Just as we told you all along, as I said all along. Remember I pointed out, I read sections of JFK's books on Anthony Fauci, the real Anthony Fauci and his sequel, the Wuhan cover-up. We were telling you this stuff a long, long time ago, and it all turned out to be true and then some. It's exactly the way I said it was. So just for lessons learned, I'm happy to be right once again on things like this, way in advance, even though it cost a lot of personal reputation to be right. The rest of everybody else out there were wrong. And they knew they were wrong, and they lied about it anyway. And the CIA was in on it. And here's a CIA whistleblower telling exactly what I told you that many years ago. Live, as it was going on. I went and did these podcasts and told everybody exactly how the ball was bouncing. and who was involved. And a lot of people said, oh, that's conspiracy theory stuff. You can't talk like that. That's wrong. It's unpatriotic. No, it was absolutely right. And I was correct more than 100%. And it's all being confirmed now. And Rand Paul has done a lot of good work with putting Dr. Fauci on the hot spot, which he deserves. He should have been prosecuted, definitely, for what he did. His policies caused a lot of harm to a lot of people who trusted the government health experts, as he called it, as he deemed himself to be the Bill Nye the science guy of all science for government science. He designated himself that. He was the highest paid government employee that there was on the payroll at the time. He was a disaster, and he was leading the country down a rabbit hole that it never recovered from. And people like Amy Acton, who is running for governor of Ohio, followed him down that rabbit hole willingly. Very reckless, very dumb. And these people knew what they were doing in front. And they knew what they were doing at Event 201, where they role-played the whole COVID response. And Bill Gates was wrapped up in it. Dr. Fauci knew what he was doing when he was advising Trump. They all knew, and they knowingly support a gain of function that should have been illegal. It was a release from China. They covered it up. And there were members of this cover-up that sought to profit off that information in various ways. And it was terrible policy, and now we're finding out later that it was all true. And as I told everybody at the time, you can go back and watch all the videos, and when it was hard, when it was hardest, when nobody on the news was talking about it, not even at the time was Rush Limbaugh talking about it. He died about a year after all this happened. He wouldn't even go there. And I did. And here it's coming out now that I was 100% right. And a lot of people were mad at me for saying it. A lot of established figures were saying, you're one of those crazy right-wingers. You're talking down our health policies. Well, for good reason. They lied to you. The CIA lied to you. And they knew it was deliberately made in a Wuhan lab and leaked for military reasons, to torpedo a Trump economy in an election year, to tamper with our economy, and to bring the World Economic Forum into the Great Reset they were seeking, which is a communist takeover of all markets in the world and turning them over to state-run. And they were going to do it by scaring people to death so they would surrender their private ownership over to state-run sponsorship. And they would take over by means of health concerns. It was a strategy that was employed and brought out in Event 201, which Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates were a part of in foresight in the planning phases. Amy Acton of Ohio knew what was going on. They knew this was a phony baloney thing. And the CIA was in on the cover-up. And here's a CIA member testifying in front of the Senate that is exactly what happened. And it's exactly what I told you is happening. Why don't people listen? They should listen more often. They'd be a lot better off in life. Anyway, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Your Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon.
Coming soon, the politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.